Welcome back, everybody, to Tactics Ogre Reborn. We're at the castle, going to fight the ugly knight fucker guy. I want to call him Zinnober, which would be with the Z, but his name starts with an X, I think. He's very annoying. Anyways, we're gonna first take on the front here, front gate, and then we're gonna move our ass in.
Thought I'd see you before long, Butcher of Goliath.
Goliath.
Or smile upon your corpse in the beyond.
Corpse. I still find it hilarious that no matter what you do, you'll always be known as the Butcher of Goliath. Or, oh, wait a minute. No. Wait. I guess that's a different thing. I'm sorry. I was gonna say, it feels like the Bama Musa slaughter just follows you forever. But, here's that's not true. Here's that we do not, call me the Butcher of Goliath. I wonder what, can't remember which one of those battles that was. Weird. What's weird about this, thing? Ew! Don't do that. Stupid phone. One of the things I think is absolutely hilarious is that they reuse a number of these locations a bunch. So like right now we're gonna go fight what's left of the army, and what do you call these people? Gagastani army. Okay. And you're at this castle here, okay? Then like a couple chapters from now, because we're gonna be coming full circle here soon. We're gonna be coming back to this castle because our dad got taken to this castle to recuperate, I guess. And so you come back to this castle and you meet up with Olivia. I don't get it. Like, how can this? It frustrates me because I know they probably ran out of time or ran out of, you know, levels to make. But like, why is this level the same, you know, as the one where you're gonna walk, if you walk to the door with no armor and no weapons, they'll let you in for free, you know? I don't get it. I also don't understand why, and I think I brought this up episode or two ago, I don't exactly understand why the necromancers have to hide their faces. But what's sort of odd is that the portrait for the female necromancers, they have faces, but their sprite seems to look like they're veiled. And then the actual sprite slash picture of the male necromancers, they always wear these like hockey mask looking thing. Is it because they got like that Sith thing going on where like the more power they attain, the more likely they are to turn into a disgusting pile of goop, you know? Which of course is, I don't know. I never really got into the Star Wars lore all that much to understand why. I mean, I'm from what I understand, the dark side eats away at you, so the longer you use, the longer and more powerful you become with the dark side, the more you turn into like a ghoulish corpse. But the only example that I've ever seen of that for certain was Palpatine, okay? Because some of the other people, like Darth Vader, he's not eaten away by the dark side. He was kind of destroyed in the in that volcano planet. Okay. So, and then the other examples, like that I'm aware of, I don't know if it's because they were in a battle with another Sith Jedi, whoever, and they got physical damage, or like I said, their body starts to rot away and they have to have these augmentations to keep them alive. Typically a lot of the Sith like to cover their face in some capacity, I guess, to hide their grotesqueness. Or like I've seen a lot where like you know, they've got some sort of face covering over their mouth in lower jaw area. And I don't know, that's because, you know, like I said, they had some sort of incident, or this has to do with some, you know, more of a like the Force eating away at you. So like I'll give you an example. I've watched someone play the Knights of the Old Republic games 1 and 2, and in the second game there's Darth Nihilus, who basically becomes so, I don't know if entrenched in the dark side it is, but essentially he begins to consume the Force itself. And so like when you defeat him, there's nothing left of him because he fucking evaporates. I don't get it really. Some of that is like a little bit of like a because I said so. Particularly with Nihilus, he's like, you know, you can't fight him because he keeps eating your Force energy, but then you fight him and then he dies. Okay, whatever. And then, like I said, like Maul's too new on the path to the dark side, so while he shows up, his face sort of is painted a reddish color. He doesn't look like he's fucking decaying yet, you know? And then, you know, in the Knights of the Old Republic, you end up fighting, I wish I remembered his name off the top of my head, but he's missing the lower part of his jaw, but I thought that was more due to an like a injury he sustained while he was in battle than anything specifically related to you know, anything specifically related to something happened to him, or rather the Force ate his jaw. But I know there's also another game called that has a Darth Malgus or something like that. It kind of looks like a halfway between like Malice and Mucus. Anyways, the reason I bring him up is because he very much is missing. He's got some sort of breathing apparatus that wraps, or kind of like Darth Vader. You know how Vader's mask at the front has like a triangle, and it would cover his nose and mouth and to roughly where his chin is. Same thing, except he doesn't. The rest of his face doesn't have this mask. I don't know. I mean, I understand that it's natural for people to age and get older and, you know, slowly but surely, you know, become decrepit and die. Even in that Star Wars universe, that's true. It's just, I don't know. I understand the concept. You don't want to have a power that doesn't have, you know, some sort of downside to it. You know what I mean? Like the Jedi use their powers responsibly, so it doesn't cause harm to their body. But the Sith abuse their power, and so it eats at their body? I don't know. Speaking of stories, I don't really like when stories. Okay, so every tale, which is very much human experience, every tale has a beginning, a middle, and an end. Okay, and that's based on the fact that you're born, you live, you die. Okay. But I don't need my storyline to necessarily go from birth to death, if you will. Okay, you can have a nice beginning where there's a whole bunch of shit that happens before the story starts, and there's gonna be a whole bunch of shit that happens after the story ends, and you're telling a portion of this person's life, or you're telling a tale, you're telling a you know, something, you make a point about something, you know what I mean? I understand there's also a place for that as well, you know, having, like, being willing to lay down your life to save someone. But, like, it feels like everything is like the end of the world, you know, storyline, you know. Let's do a story where, you know, we're gonna build up to fighting Thanos, who has the gauntlet, who's going to eliminate half the universe. You know, like, okay, I get it. That's exciting. That's a comic thing that you build up to for however many days, weeks, years, and you know you're gonna do a movie version of that. That's cool. That's cool. But I don't need every story to be that. Is what I'm saying. I don't need every story to be, you know, oh well, it's the end of the universe. You know, the end of it's the end of everything as we know it. Because as much as we'd like to make, you know, our lives all about, you know, oh, this is the end of the world, terrible things happen, that means it's the end times, you know. And maybe it is the end times, I don't know. But I feel like in many ways, if you look back on older societies, you might say, well, you know, we work harder than they did back, you know, 100, 200 years ago. But at the same time, I feel like we're more resource, particularly basic food, shelter. We're not you know, we've not run out of that, you know what I mean? So like, you know, it is, you know, what seems like, I'm gonna go back and forth on this. What seems like the end of the world is really not the end of the world. It's just another day. It's another day chapter in history. You know what I mean? So, on the one hand, when you look back at something over 20 years, you can point out,
where's our reinforcement? Where's Master Nibeth?
yeah, Nibeth left you to die because he doesn't care about anything except himself and his research. But I mean, if you look back over 20 years, you can see how things eroded away. You know, if you're a conservative, you'll say society, culture itself is eroded away because it's not like it used to be 20 years ago. You know, we have things that weren't permissive, you know, in the 90s is permissive now, and things that, you know, we wouldn't put up with, you know, would be something that we seem to be more open to, you know. And some of that's rosy-colored glasses, I think, because I can remember when there used to be KKK marches, like in your local cities. I live near Pittsburgh, so I remember there being one or two in the 90s, and people fighting against it, and you know, not wanting to allow them to parade themselves down the road, etc. And I get it. And at the same time, like, I feel like a lot of that stuff's sort of gone underground since that time. You know, that it exists. We're able to find areas online, not necessarily related to the KKK, that are, you know, out there trying to make an argument for whatever, you know, culture degrading. And if you're more on the Democrat side, the liberal side of things, you look at, you know, the way, you know, workers' rights have degraded over the last 30, 40 years, and how, you know, while our productivity in America has increased, our wages haven't kept up with it, particularly low-level wages, you know. Minimum wage doesn't keep up with inflation, that sort of stuff. And, you know, whatever side of the aisle you fall on, in terms of, well, nobody pays minimum wage. I get that, but they call minimum wage because that's the minimum they're legally allowed to pay you per hour. And if given the opportunity to have a $0 minimum wage, who knows what people will get paid, you know? Because, you know, again, your minimum wage, in my opinion anyways, keeps everybody else's wages higher, because if you're a professional who doesn't make minimum wage and all of a sudden your wage starts approaching what becomes the new minimum wage, you start to go like, well, why the fuck am I doing this for, you know? So, and I know that can cause other problems in the economy, most notably inflation, but well, that's sort of what I mean. I mean, like, you know, we put up with little things change here and there. It's not the end of the world, okay? And people fearmonger over the changes that occur. And I understand, you know, it's easy to look back in time and go, this is the moment where things change for the worse for insert group, labor, you know, normal America, if you will. And I don't know. I'm not going to say everything's terrible, but like, not everything's got to be the end of the world. And my media sort of is a little like that as well. You have regular television media, like sitcoms and that, they tend to obviously not be the end of the world because they're comedies, obviously. And they tend to tell you a more simple, straightforward story about a group of people and how they interact in their lives and how they went from point A to point B, how they grew and matured and etc. But I feel like a lot of our movies got to be like, well, there's a meteor coming to the Earth. We're all gonna die. We're gonna send these people up into space to divert said meteor. If they do it, we all live, and if they don't, we all die. Or worse yet, and I'll leave you on this thought, worse yet is when you get into sort of the above, even beyond that, like, sort of like, well, the only way to solve the problem is to essentially eradicate life itself. And it's like, okay, slow down. I get it. There's a problem that you disagree with or we don't like, but eliminating all life from the universe doesn't seem like an adequate response to this subject. Hooray! Cutscene.
Why leave, Master Nibith? Where have we to go? Let us see this through to its end. Our end, if need be. What is our purpose, if not this?
How little you yet understand. We are not here to fight the Wallister. With Hierophant Balbatos gone and the young Lord of Coritanai in their hands, the kingdom will never again rise. It falls to us to make the most of the situation and complete our research. That is our purpose, dear Cressida.
He's very much all about his research.
Then let me ask you, as daughter to father, do you not want vengeance for mother and sister? The very man who assaults this castle is their murderer. Forsaking your country is one thing, forsaking kin another. I will not. I cannot.
As stubborn as your sister.
Master Nibeth, why are you yet within? The time
Tabos, that's it.
now.
I knew
Commander Ronsenbach.
it was like a Z
It's to
something,
my shame
but
you
it
had to
starts with an
witness
X.
There is no shame in a daughter so devoted to her people. But Cressida, you must leave here at once with your father.
What? How could you ask this of me? I am full ready to die here by your side, Commander.
Then you're a fool. The lives of me and my men are payment enough today.
No!
His Eminence saw in Master Nibeth's inquiries a light for Galgistan's future. If there's any hope he can claim that prize, the greatest prize, well, then we must devote ourselves to seeing that he complete his work. I do not deny the wrath directed at us by those outside our walls, but you need not bear the burden for that. Complete your research. Prove us worthy of such a boon. Bring joy to Galgistan. Your place is by your father's side, Cressida, for Hector's sake, as well as ours.
But, Commander...
Please, Master Nibeth, go now. Your research shall be our legacy.
I shall consider it my duty above all others.
Godspeed, Cressida. One day, you will tell your own child of the glory and the fall of the great kingdom of Galgistan.
The chariot guide you, Commander.